Welcome to season one, episode two of We Two Real Life Stories with Real Life Couples. I am your real life host, Dr. Jessica Tartaro. You are about to meet Annie and Craig, who I had the delight of interviewing this morning. Annie and Craig are truly their own creatures. It sort of brings a giggle as I reflect on our time together. They're a couple who center play, creative play, embodied play in everything they do. They are teachers of a creative, playful, embodied practice called body weaving, which you will hear about in the interview, and they travel the region teaching that. But they live that, more importantly, from wearing onesies to run an errand to Home Depot to actually using creative role play for their conflict tending, which you just have to hear. I don't think I could do it justice to summarize. Annie and Craig have been together a year and a half. They're a polyamorous couple. They speak somewhat to their experience of their other partners. And so much of what they do is surrounded by community. Craig is a co-founder of an intentional community outside of Seattle, and Craig and Annie spend a lot of time there. So they are a couple who has a generous willingness to be seen in their process, and they talk about how much that means to them. You are in for a delightful ride. It went by so fast when I met with them, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Get ready to be introduced to Annie and Craig. Okay, so recording is officially in progress. You have hidden your self view so you are not distracted by your beauty, as you said, which I am already distracted by your beauty. I will do my best. Welcome, Annie and Craig, to episode two of We Two, and good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for your curiosity about us and for the honor of the invitation to go deeper together. Thank you.
Yeah. Easy. So to be curious, I told you, oh, I'll be on in 2 minutes because I wanted to just reread your application. I had you answer some questions so that I could get a little more insight into your relationship. And there's so much there to be curious about. An hour is not going to really do us justice. But let me start by asking, how are you both feeling arriving into this conversation with me?
Good. I feel a little bit of fluttery nerves. It's just something that's always kind of a low grade presence with me. I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety at the age of 20, so it's just part of my system. And I know there's really nothing to be deeply concerned about. So there's a little bit of a buzziness, still feeling the cups of coffee from this morning, and there's also a lot of enthusiasm for me. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
I just kind of noticed even when the recording started, like something in me changed, and I was like, "Oh, I have to be on a little bit now." And so, but that was like a noticing in me. I was like, "Oh, I'm not used to that," and because I am generally so just in my body, in my experience, so that there was just a light noticing. I was like, "Oh, interesting."
Yeah, I like noticing and a little surprise too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've both named this, and what you can't see at my office is like I've got this huge light set up, so it's like really, really bright, which is also super distracting. So how about this? Could we do like a something about sticking your tongue out? I know I find for me like, okay, I'm not going to take myself too seriously if I can go. Let's do it one more time. It's on the one hand something that like a reminder to me to ground, but on the other hand, it's also tuning into something real, which is extra eyes and ears on your intimate partnership. Not everyone's going to be in front of this camera. I met with a friend yesterday, and she said, "Don't even consider asking me to be on your program." She said, "But I want to tell you about my marriage." And I said, oh, everything you're sharing is so rich, but there's no way. She's so introverted. It's a big deal that you two are only the second couple to say, yes, we will let me, Jessica, but also by way of me, the world. I don't know, that sounds wrong, but whoever will tune into this program, um, be curious together with me about your partnership. And, your partnership, you described it in so many ways, but I loved you said it's complex and nuanced.
Hmm.
And I thought, wow, that feels so true, what I know so far. So you've been together a year and a half, I think. Yes.
Yep.
And you live in different places, but you are often in the same place. You're
Mhm.
between Craig, the intentional community that you started, Wild Fern Grove, and Annie, your house in Seattle.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you travel as a couple in many for many different reasons, but also to teach. I know this. Anyone who's following you on Facebook knows that you just got back from Portland. And then I'll say I had the privilege of having you out to the Olympic Peninsula, or you were out on the Olympic Peninsula, and I got to hike with you last weekend. The
Yes.
last time we were together, we were slipping and sliding over the roots and mud in Gibbs Lake Park, beautiful Gibbs Lake Park.
Yes.
So magical.
And we had the gift of beautiful weather and reflective time at the lake. And yes, there's something about the moving meditation, the walk and talk, that really is so nourishing for me. So
Yeah.
Agreed.
And,
Only could have the camera follow us.
there you go.
That was our
yes.
We need a
interview.
little drone,
Yes.
a little drone or something. Yeah.
Craig, you
And
were
it
going to add.
it just felt so good to even drop into that type of conversation before this too, because it to me it just added even more comfortability to this conversation here.
Mhm.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, let me say, just to help us keep arriving, but also just for context for anyone listening. So I met you two last year. I think we were sort of loosely aware of each other and sort of networks that somewhat overlap, but you both came to a class I taught, which was last fall, called How to Village Well. And anyone who's coming to this class already is someone who cares a lot about relationship. It's a class on how to be kind of careful and conscious and authentic in our relationships, certainly with everyone, partners included, but especially with the people we share community with. So you
Mhm.
two came to that class and you both gave beautiful testimonies afterward. You're somewhere on our website now. You were students in that class, but you also both are teachers of other forms of how to village well. So I just want to acknowledge that you come as learners, you come as facilitators and teachers. It's such a gift that you're showing up as people today. So one of the things I asked in the application, and I'd love to just lead with, is sort of what works in this relationship? What are your superpowers? What are some of the gifts that, or glue that holds this relationship together? I know there's many, but I
Mm.
wonder just what's alive in this moment as you two are kind of landing and breathing into, kind of opening the territory of your love. What would each of you say?
Mm.
For me, the word authenticity comes up. And that's something I'm still like working with on a daily basis. And I bring that up to say, I went downstairs to do some bathroom things, brush the teeth before the interview, and I came back upstairs with like a little bit of powder and some lip tint on. And Craig is like, "Whoa, you put makeup on." And because he can tell right away because he's used to seeing my face a lot. And it's like, oh, am I being inauthentic? And I'm wanting to put my best foot forward, or am I stepping into that more societal expectation? There's a camera, I better look on or good or awake. And so that still kind of like comes up with me. What kind of relationship do I want to have with that? Uh, and I've gone through some transitions to test my boundaries there lately, like having fake eyelashes removed last fall. And even right now, I'm doing a little experiment of growing out my armpit hair and just like playing with. And then it's so nice to be with someone who none of that stuff matters. And so that's like a fun part of the experimentation of deeper and deeper authenticity that is a big part of us. And I mean, can I share a little story of like our third date?
Hmm.
We were going on a walk in volunteer park, and I said something offhand like, "Oh, I straightened my hair for you today." Just this kind of, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." Just so you know, that will never matter to me. And I remember him like touching my heart space and saying, "It's what's in here that I care about, and that's what I want to get to know." And no one had ever just said it so plainly. There was no harshness in it. It was just this like, let's let me share with you what I care about and how I want to get to know you. I'm not also going to be the type of person who's going to compliment you on your hair or outfit on a given day. And so that is something that has just been this unfolding for us and something that is new for me to kind of step into more confidence about authenticity and playing with those boundaries a little bit. And yeah, I'm so grateful for it. It's a gift.
Mm. And yeah, and just to kind of reflect on that, in just kind of my practices in life and everything, it's just intimacy. It's like, how deep can I go with the humans that are in my life? And one of the facets that we have found is our curiosity around almost everything. It's like there isn't like anything that's like a closed door. It's like we want to peek, open each door and peek inside of it and see if that's for us or not. And so it's like this curiosity combined with that intimacy that is like, to me, our superpower, because we are truly like trying to figure out all of these different energies, all of these different experiences, all of these different emotions, and playing in them and not being afraid to step into any of them.
Hmm.
So moved by both those answers and just how they line up. You know what strikes me, Annie, your story, I'm just imagining because it's so specific. I can imagine that unfolding and something um conventional, I suppose, or just relatable, where you were like, "Hey, I wanted to be pretty in this
Yeah,
in connection to my, person I'm dating for the third time, going on this date."
right.
And for you to have him answer in such an unexpected way,
Hmm.
I'm imagining certainly the relief of that.
That's what it was. It was this opportunity then to let some of that go.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, if I don't put energy into those things, I can put more energy into the relating part of it because I'm not efforting about what I'm wearing or how I look. When I was growing up, my dad used to say to me, be ladylike, Annie. And that always had a lot of edge for me. And there were times I really rebelled from that. And I like that Craig is not concerned about the exterior in that way. And if anything, I think like we both have more turn on in being ridiculous and dressing in onesies and silly tights than being conventionally good looking. And so that's been fun too to kind of subvert that expectation. And we've worn our onesies to Home Depot together or the grocery store. And people will say things like, especially to Craig, "Did you lose a bet?" And it's like, no, we're always like this. Like this is our insides externally shown, and that feels good than me trying to like fit in this more socially prescribed box of what is beautiful, which was never a great fit. Like we have an ongoing joke that my vibe is nerdy sexy. Like I don't really know how to do a more conventional sexy. Like I only know how to do the nerdy version. And I'm now proud of it and I will claim it
Yeah,
instead of
yeah, it's
instead of
something.
trying to
Oh,
be something I'm not.
that's so that's so delightful. I think there's probably like a lot of people who can relate to that. I did wiggle fingers, me too. But
Appreciate that.
I'm really hearing subvert. It's such a great word.
Mm,
There's so many connotations to that, but taking something that once oppressed or limited, let's say me, and
mhm,
then flipping it so that it's a point of freedom. I'm really hearing a lot of freedom. And Craig, you said it so nicely. It's just, I can lead with curiosity, which is just such an organic superpower. I often think if I could wish anything upon the world, gift everyone one thing, it would be wells of curiosity and to lead from that place. That in this relationship, you feel the freedom to really let the two of you lead with curiosity, find what is compelling and interesting, and not be guided by what should I look like or sound like. There's this idea that the gaze of the outside world so dictates who from the inside out we often become. And I'm really hearing you've disempowered that gaze, or kind of like cut the wires and said, I'm going to let the gravity from the inside out matter. And we're going to show up to Home Depot in onesies.
And it feels so good, like stepping into that energy instead of this more trying so hard and shape shifting to accommodate, to just be like, oh, I actually care much less in certain ways, and it's so freeing. Yeah.
And I just want to be like that, all of that, like how my outfits have changed and my external world changed. I was studying some Stoic philosophy, and like one of the suggestions was to wear things that are not in fashion and see how that impacts you and how people look at you. And I started doing that based on that little prompt. And then I realized within myself, I'm like, oh, I love dressing like this. And it completely changed. I was somebody who completely blended in and did all the things and looked like everybody else. And then I did that and I'm like, oh, what have I been missing my whole life is being my authentic self. And now that's just who I am.
Mm-hmm. Where in time did that moment happen for you, Craig?
Probably about 10 years ago. So probably in my late 30s is when I kind of really started deep diving into the who is Craig, who am I, and not the version that society expects me to be.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
One part of this interview that I'd like to foreground a little bit is you two have a polyamorous container. You are in partnership with other partners in connection to each other as well. And I appreciate, that's an important piece of the puzzle in terms of the picture of this relationship, and also this idea of we are making it our own.
Yes. Yes.
Would you be willing to speak a little bit to the configuration of this relationship? We probably won't go too far because those folks aren't here to represent themselves, but just to acknowledge the larger context.
Yeah.
Sure.
I I would say we tend to follow the non-hierarchical polyamory models, the kitchen table poly lifestyle based on people who know that stuff. But I think our greatest kind of reflection in all of our polyamorous relationships is, are these connections adding to our personal relationship? And that can be even like sensual relationships or deep platonic relationships. It's not just about sexuality. And that's, for me, my version of polyamory is having truly many loves, and they don't have to be sexual. And in fact, I find a lot more value in a lot of my sensual relationships than I do some of my sexual relationships.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's kind of a metaphorical connection here between our talk about outfits and expression and then relationships and really creating how do we want this to look, and then the refinement. Because as someone newer to polyamory than Craig, there were a number of uncertainties, and then we've been able to have conversations with other beloveds, find love in unexpected places. I mean, when I first met one of Craig's partners of now 8 years, it was kind of like, okay, let's be friendly and let's just start to have a base. And then we ended up falling in love. And that surprised Craig. And so that was like, there's this joy of discovery and this, I didn't know that I could have so much love in my life. And Craig kind of warned me early in our relationship. He's like, get ready, you're gonna have so much love in your life. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's right. It's been this Amazing. I almost think of it as this braided river channel, just these different sources and this collection and how we all kind of feed each other. And it there's definitely been some new skills to learn along the way and just so much richness. And it's helped me grow so much and communicate better and speak from my heart and all of it. So I'm so grateful.
Incredible. Well, you dove, Annie, into something that, as you've shared with me here and also in other spaces, was you weren't sure if you would have love, have partnership. That was even a question for you. And you were like moderately okay with being single. Um,
Yep.
and everything changed.
They changed dramatically. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a striking feature of your relationship. This you talked about this metaphor of the rivers, kind of the tributaries coming together, but how woven in connection to others, certainly some of them being sexual partners, but many of them just being members of your extended communities, how much that weaving is part of this relationship. This relationship is not happening in kind of a quiet bubble.
No.
Yeah, to the contrary. In fact, a big part of how I met you is because you asked me, as students coming to the class, could we get to know you more? Which I was so touched by, and of course, I kind of vetted you. You know, who are these people? I think, why do they want to come to my house and get to know me? I'm, doing due diligence. But then I got it. Like this is. It seems to me like such an intensely shared value is to be together deeply, and the love you share is so unique to you, and but then to be so outward facing as a
Mhm.
couple. You really talked to me about wanting to weave different leaders together and communities together, and you said, do you know this person and this person, and I did a little bit of that with you as well. But it really it does feel like a gift that you're offering the world, because so many couples, and there's nothing wrong or right with different orientations, it's just the way we role, but are very inward facing, certainly more private. Um,
Mhm.
so it's remarkable.
Yeah.
That is such a shared value and such a living value. I'd love to hear, you did a recent class in Portland, but I'd love to hear just how your your formal teaching plays its part in this love affair. You're both intimate partners, but you're also teaching partners. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Mhm.
You go first.
Okay.
I want to hear what you want to
Sure,
say.
sure. I love it. I think it's a way to play with Craig and get to know Craig and interact with Craig, and of course, everyone who attends on a new level and dimension. I think it adds more texture and flavor to our relationship. And for me, it's an energy that wants to be shared. I feel like we do have this effervescent love between us that wants to go outward. It doesn't want to be contained. I mean, there's certain things, of course, that it's nice to have downtime and one-on-one time together. And it just feels so good to be in this kind of toroidal field of like, sharing. And it's this continuous cycle of giving and receiving. And I think for me too, stepping into teaching with Craig speaks to an older desire from my 20s when I was in grad school and thinking that that was going to be my path to become an academic. And so this also speaks to something that is a return for me in a powerful way. And and it challenges me. I get nervous sometimes. Craig gives me feedback. We always ask each other, what could we do better? I'm working on striking ums as a little space filler. And I'm starting to ask him like, well, can I try the introduction next time? Or can we switch these parts? Because I want to make, even though it scares me a little bit, it's like that's how I know I'm going to learn and grow. And we get to play together and play with our friends and community and other lovers. And it's just so it fills me up. It's a creative expression. It's using my body in a different way, especially for body weaving. I come from a racing background with bike racing. And so to just move in ways that are silly and because it feels good, not because I'm trying to strengthen a certain muscle in a specific way or kind of get the workout in or have data and reps. Like, this is a whole different way of being in the world for me. And it feels really good.
Wow, that's such a contrast from data and reps and fitness to just creativity. Can you maybe either of you define body weaving? I didn't define it because I really think it should come from you, but the main thing you two teach, as far as I know, is body weaving. Can one of you explain what that is?
Yeah, it's basically creative play that also allows nurturing. And so what we do is, I mean, I wouldn't say we're not teaching, we're just holding a container that allows people to express themselves in any way that's alive for them. And so that could be like, hey, I'm having a rough week. I need to be held by a group of people. Hey, my body hurts. I need to be massaged. Or, hey, I haven't like played around at all for a while. Can I be this puppy or kitten and play with other humans and with this primal energy? And so for us, it's just like, how do we creatively use our bodies in the ways that we need them and the ways kind of society has shut down for us in a lot of ways. And so we are trying to bring that back.
It's this almost reclamation of the power of play.
Yeah.
And for me too, as someone who's very oriented, and I love that Craig has that too, I like some of the funkier scenarios I've proposed in class, like let's go from caterpillar to chrysalis to butterfly. Or I mean, so we're kind of acting in some ways and making it up or co-creating. We've even had like tumbleweeds in a Western setting with saguaros. And so it can go anywhere and each class is different. And I love that. It's letting that life force energy kind of come through and laughing together.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Just hearing, so I've not come to one of your classes. I've been meaning to say, like, how do we get you here? I meant to say that on our walk. And then after I said, oh, I've got to follow up with them. But just hearing the description, my body is softening.
Mm,
Hearing you talk about it and imagining like caterpillar to chrysalis to butterfly, how good that would feel. You know, this moment in time. So we're doing our recording, early February 2026. This moment in time, there is so much collective tension,
mhm,
unexpressed grief, fear, in North America, certainly in this country, in the United States. And so imagining that kind of space as a discharge, as a release, as a reminder of animal body resilience, and certainly as a way to free emotions that right now don't have really anywhere to go in that many healthy ways that are collective, that are communal, that are like seeing and being seen. You know, this is not something that you're doing in like someone's living room. You go to
mhm,
yoga studios and gyms and you go to public spaces and do this. So I feel this gratitude.
mm.
It's a special moment in time and what you're offering. And then Craig, I just want to hear if you want to add anything. So here you both feel called, and it's such an important a reclamation of play, like you said, Annie, and just what it's like, to do that with Annie. And I know that you had been teaching other things prior to this recent project. Annie, you were speaking to, hey, wanting to lean into edges, like, can I take the intro? Or can I practice taking out ums? Which is a great, I had to pause. What was she saying? Oh, yes, such a great, it's a small thing as a teacher. And now
Mm.
I'm super conscious and I'm trying not to say, Let me stop that train of thought. But you leaning into those edges because you're collaborating with this man who's safe enough to hold you in that stretch. I'm wondering, Craig, if you want to comment at all about really integrating your partner into your teaching and what that's been like.
And again, it's just another layer of intimacy. And to me, it's very important. Like I kind of say that I don't want to be a leader, but the world needs leaders right now. And this is the space that I feel most comfortable in. And it's basically just a reflection of our relationship too, because one of the things that we speak to is we teach this body weaving class, but we live it. We're doing this stuff every single day. We're playing every single day with our words, with our bodies, with just other humans in our life and different energies. And so it is a practice. And so the fact that we are doing it in our relationship just is such a natural way to share it with other people. And it's also, it is one of the things that we notice when we go out into the world that not very many people play. And it kind of is like sad to me. And we are going in these places, these dance spaces, and we're being silly and ridiculous and goofy, and nobody else is. And I'm like, oh my God, this is such a magical place to play. And I want that feeling for everybody else too.
Mm-hmm. This is such a magical place to play, like planet Earth.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Or any imaginary world that we create. Like we go into different worlds.
Yeah. Like what I'm hearing you say is it's everywhere for us.
Everywhere.
This
Everywhere.
this body is such a magical place to play. Well, this is then one of the gifts of the chemistry of this relationship, and it takes a lot of courage. I've been the first person on a dance floor before. Like it takes courage to do something that's not being done. There's Lawrence Cole is a elder teacher in my community. I imagine you're aware of him, but he talks about being a permissionary. Different teachers say this in different ways, but I love that word. That's clearly you two in the sense of permissionaries to play in public spaces. Like play at home, okay, it happens. I think of this with my daughter. We've talked about Joya before, but she is so big and loud at home. And I watch her get so quiet and shy out in the world, which is perfectly fine. I don't push it, but I just notice, wow, where she feels, full range, and then how, the tiny little bit that she lets the rest of the world see. So noting that and noting so many folks, that's a way to be. And you two have this continuity. We play in the living room, we play on the dance floor. It's we're basically, I'll paraphrase, but what you said, Craig, is so awesome. We're just bringing who we are to body weaving. We're just opening, it wider. We're doing this all the time, which I imagine for folks listening is so refreshing to hear. So refreshing that this relationship is so much. My therapist says, "Neck down, Jessica, neck down." Like, I go.
I have that tendency as well. Yes.
I know you do. You and I have that in common. Nerdy, sexy.
Yep.
Yeah. But neck down, and it's like, oh yeah, that you relate so much from the mammal, the friendly body, the legs and limbs and everything in between. So I'm just feeling there's so many different directions we could go. We're talking so much about play. We're talking so much about how you weave the rest of the world in, or weave you into the world, but the sort of permeability of kind of public private in this relationship. You shared in your application that you have these practices, like structured practice, like you're very spontaneous and you're very organic. But you also have structured practices that you enact. There's discipline in this relationship, which a lot of people talk about. Gabriel Roth, who's the founder of Five Rhythms, says it takes discipline to be a free spirit.
Yes.
That's such a beautiful, like, we're not actually chucking discipline in order to play. It's by way of these disciplines that free us. I'd love to hear. So I'll just share a couple of the names of the disciplines that you've shared with me, and then see if there's any that you want to riff on. But you talked about the weekly radar practice, something that's kind of really now more kind of built in. I don't know how formal you are now, but you started it that way. I know you told me on our hike that there's a monthly sexuality kind of container that you hold around your relationship. And then let me see if I'm missing any. I think those are the two that stand out, and there probably are others that I'm missing. Would you be willing to riff on either of those or any others, but some of the kind of structures that help you be so liberated in this relationship?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to the radar conversations. And there's a template we found, and it's an invitation to kind of reflect on what's happened, surface. You can pick a few topics within it. Like maybe we're going to talk about date night or finances or other partners. And then it's this deep listening and kind of deciding if there are any action items, and then reconnection is a really powerful way to end it. And for us, that often looks like yab yum. So it's where, for those who don't know, it's kind of like Craig is sitting this way and then I kind of sit on top of him. So our hearts are together and I'm wrapping my legs like around his waist. And so even small practices like yab yum, sometimes I'll ask for just 3 deep breaths, putting our foreheads together. I love to do that. There's something about his third eye I find myself very attracted to. So I had never been in a relationship where there was a consistent kind of neutral place to just discuss feelings. I had only been in relationships in the past where it was we're in a fight or it's a conflict or this has been building for so long. So having that little bit of pressure release valve and training my body to do that and to just bring it up now instead of holding on to it it was a game changer for me. Uh, I mean, we were talking this morning about something that happened early in our relationship where we were discussing whether or not I was going to stay another night at the Grove. And Craig had said something like, he meant it later. I learned in I'm looking out for you way, but the way it came across was, oh, I want you to go home. And I took it as a very like, oh, I'm being dismissed in that moment. And I think I brought it up about 3 days later, and I was like, oh, I wanted to chat about this. There was some emotion and some contraction. And he's like, oh my gosh, that's not what I meant at all. I meant that like it's probably within your best interest. You can go rest, you can go recharge. Maybe that if you stayed another night, it wouldn't really be high quality time. So it was this like, oh, I had this kind of, I was telling myself a story around it. And then it turned out not to be true. And we got to unwind it together and then alchemize it in that way of like being able to laugh at it. So creating that even kind of practice within my nervous system of like, and okay, he's not going to break up with me if I bring up something. Like I do, I have some perfectionistic tendencies around wanting everything to be just right. And of course, that's not real world relating or living or working for that matter. So I'm grateful that we started that practice early and also started to capture a lot of things we use Google Keep for lists. So everything from our own little key phrases to trips we want to go on to weird like sensual things we want to try, or I even have a list of sex experiments. And so that has been a really fun way to co-create and keep that energy going and have it documented so we can just pull from it, or lists of books and movies that we both love so we can share that with the other person to get to know them at a deeper level. So I am grateful too that we sat down early on and did our agreements. What kind of relationship do we want to have? Let's co-create this. And we don't have to follow any rules. We get to create them.
Wow. I'm going back and forth between focused on you and focused on both of us. So that's that last piece you shared is really helps understand how you've gotten to where you've gotten. At the very beginning, you two said, who are we going to be?
Yeah.
We did our relationship agreements, which is a wonderful practice, and certainly not everyone does that. And it sounds like that's where you said, I'll just take a guess and then you tell me what's true, but I'm really hearing we want to be able to tell hard things to each other. We
Mm-hmm.
want to have a repair process that keeps
Mm-hmm.
us connected and deepens us. Uh, and then I love the Google Keep and all of the tracking that you do, the documenting that you do, which is
Mm-hmm.
so geeky in this great way of, like there's a breadcrumb trail of the things that matter to us. and we can come back to it and let it feed us and us feed it. But to this relationship agreements, can either of you say just a little bit more about what that looked like and what you agreed to?
Mm-hmm. You want to take that?
I mean, there really isn't that many in the grand scheme of things. But one, like some of it's just around sexual health and safety. And anytime we're going to be engaging with other humans in sexual ways, to make sure that we navigate those conversations to keep ourselves safe.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is just around just our communication and just making sure that we are bringing things forward as soon as possible rather than, letting like stewing on anything, because both of us can kind of hang on to stuff and it just doesn't feel good to hang on to it. So like bringing it forward in healthy ways as soon as
Mm-hmm.
possible. What else is
And I
there?
think there is one around asking the other person if they have space for some news. So there's that kind of getting the consent to have the conversation and then having the conversation. And of course we learned that the hard way there was a situation last fall where I felt a little surprised and kind of like, oh, I didn't know that we were going to have that kind of conversation now. And so it's just like, how can we do it even a little better? It's this refinement and a little bit more care. And yeah, I mean, to Craig's point too, I think we have about 5 agreements and then we have probably 5 pages of values and things that we want to do to continue working together and dreaming together is a big part of intimacy for me. I love going into that imaginal realm. And for me, that's such a strong and unique way to connect. And some of it is around shared values, and then some of that brings in storytelling. We have these kind of characters in our story worlds where I'm Foxy and he's Pony, and they have little adventures. We have Indiani and Craig Thunderthighs, and they have adventures. So that is a way, again, we could just bring play and creativity. And what I love about that is if there's in storytelling, you have to have some adversity. There has to be a conflict. Your protagonists need to often overcome something or learn a lesson or maybe even make a sacrifice. And so that is like another way that we get to communicate with each other in this adjacent way. And
Yeah.
that's really fun. And we both adore it.
A lot of times when we have had obstacles, we create a fantasy story around the obstacle and how we navigated it. And it is so fun.
Yep.
Okay, wait. We need to dive into that. Let me get this straight. So you've given a couple examples of material getting kind of caught. Oh, I thought he wanted me to leave. He was and dismissing me. He was actually encouraging me to take care of myself. Or last fall, you just gave kind of the bird's eye, but I got some news that I wasn't prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship is very well. You wrote in your application, and this is very apparent, very growth oriented, but very proactive in terms of. You could talk about the hygiene of the relationship, like oral hygiene. You don't let things get caught in your teeth. You don't let things get caught in the teeth of this relationship. You floss. There's lots of metaphors. You weed the garden, but you do that on purpose, and you do that preventatively. I very much hear that. Okay, so here's a piece then that I'm like, wow. When there's some adversity, I loved how you put that, Annie. In any story, a given plot must have some friction or something to overcome, a sacrifice, adversity, just like the literature, lover in me is eating that up. So too in relationship, in fact, and small divergence, but you know this to be true. Without conflict, we actually can't be bonded. Without some little bit of compression, right? The couples that actually don't fight have a very different and I would say kind of deeper problem because there's always going to be conflict in all relationships. But if we don't breathe it, acknowledge it, name it, it just builds. Okay, so the adversity that can come up in this relationship, misattunements and so on, you sometimes go into your fantasy realm, your characters, and you work it out in the story realm. Please say more.
Yes. Well, something that came up for me is I actually read the story of Foxy and Pony for the first time to a larger audience on New Year's Eve. And that was edgy for me because there were other partners in the room. And so it was one of those moments where something that was just between me and Craig, and yet, okay, I'm going to step into sharing it. And I still have a little bit of, I would say activated caretaker in me. And so where I come from is I don't want the story that is about us to be hurtful for other powerful relationships that I respect and honor, and who in turn shape what we get to do and who we are. So, because I do see it as, we often use the spiral as a metaphor. So anyway, I did read the story of Foxy and Pony on New Year's Eve, and it was it was really fun to share, and it was scary. And I think some people kind of at first didn't quite get it was us, and then it became true later, because I also had included kind of how we first met. And so there's some overlap in our real world, how we met, and then how Foxy and Pony bumped into one another, playing in a magical enchanted forest. So that's another one too. And then I'm glad I shared it, and I checked in with someone who I was concerned about the next day. And she was able to say, honestly, it was a little crunchy. And I know I'm so happy you two can meet each other there. And I know it's part of who you are. So to be able to receive that gift from her and then release that stress of like, oh, I hope this wasn't hurtful. I don't want to be causing pain, especially to someone else I love. So that's like one of those. And then it opens a lot of things up. And it's just a fun way to, like I said, take that little bit adjacent approach so that it's not me saying necessarily in a confrontational way, like, hey, Craig, I want to talk about this. It's this more kind of gentle, but no less potent. Let's surface. And in some ways, by having our characters go through certain things, you can almost go deeper.
Yeah, and in one of the stories that included one of the other partners, it was our trip to Iceland, and it discussed like what we were all facing at the time, and it was still in the fantasy realm of like trolls and elves and all of these things that we were finding on our trip in Iceland, but it was also like deeply authentic versions of what each one of us was facing through that trip, even heading up into it and while we were all there, because it was kind of our first trip together. And so there was a lot of like unknowns, and so, we came out of it with this fun story that we can go back into and reflect on it like forever, essentially.
Yeah. And if I may add an addendum to that, that story was also read on New Year's Eve, and we each acted out
Oh,
our own
it was
parts.
played out and
And so,
it's
like,
hilarious.
that felt really good too, because it's honoring these different dynamics in the relationships, and making sure everyone gets airtime and is seen for their own unique gifts and contributions and their brilliant souls as well. Yeah.
Phenomenal. I am delighted that we get to presence in this conversation. You call it kind of an adjacent pathway. The characters that you play, there's two different sets of character names that you named. But sometimes, like you said, Annie, there's even more potency because there's a little less of that kind of, there's ego separation, right? If I'm Pony, is that you're
Yep.
not Annie, then maybe
He's Pony, I'm Foxy.
Foxy. No, I could have got that. Right. Pony Foxy. Yes. Um, well, maybe Foxy doesn't have some of the hangups that Annie has, and it's like, so she can actually be brave or whatever it is. My child does this. Children do this so easily, play acting. It's so straightforward. We don't think twice when a child will try on her character. My daughter has running imaginary friends. Oh, she told us, well, she's married and she has a kid and she was pregnant. And so my husband was talking about having a son-in-law. We were like, "Oh, you have a son? Okay, interesting." And but that guy has the same food allergies that my husband has. Anyway, we're spinning the imaginal tale at dinner, and no one's thinking twice because she's 3. But if an adult was spinning the story, we kind of look, sideways and go, what you're doing is such an innate intelligence. It's so brilliant as a way to put a little bit of distance from the triggers and the adult kind of terrain of woundedness and so on, and to say, oh, okay, if we add play, I mean, this is such a through line in your story.
Mhm.
If we add play to the crunchiness, that's one way of calling the tension. What becomes possible? What love can come in? What creativity can come in? And very brave that you shared. It sounds like several stories at a
Mhm.
gathering, and so your community could also um, celebrate this resource that you both have. I mean, I teach about conflict. I've been teaching it a lot, and so on. So, well, you say this and this, and you do these kind of scripts, and you look at your triggers and your core wounds, and so on. All of that is really a big excavation into like this person and my biography and my childhood
Mhm.
trauma and so on. It's heavy stuff, definitely
Mhm.
heavy stuff. I don't think we do it really well long term without some of what you two are bringing in, without an infusion of levity and a little bit of distance and the way creativity. I wonder your thoughts about. I think a lot about the power of grief to free
Mm.
us, but it also feels like people talk often about joy and grief or grief and gratitude, how grief allows for the other end of the continuum of capacity to feel alive. And I
Mhm.
wonder, this is a bit of a sidebar, but if you could speak to how you feel that your work and the playfulness of it situates itself alongside other discharge practices like grieving, how they go together, if at all.
Mm.
I I am a person who believes they go hand in hand. And there's been a question that I've kind of put out into kind of my field is like I see a lot of people practicing grief and I see a lot of people practicing play and pleasure, but I don't see a lot of people practicing both. And to me, they are hand in hand. And to me, the play and the pleasure is the inspiration to keep going into the grief. And then the grief is the piece where allows us to be find our depth, find our edges so that we can go back into the play and the pleasure. And so it is that teeter-totter of energy, and
Mhm.
I personally believe they are the most powerful combination out there. And if we are practicing both equally, it that is what makes the difference.
And if you're open to it, Craig, do you want to talk about how we deal with both in ceremony to kind of circle back to that other piece?
Like when we are together, just practicing, like with,
I feel like we use the monthly ceremony Jessica
yes,
named earlier to go into both of those.
absolutely. And uh, we basically try to process in our love ceremony what is challenging for us in our life through our families, through our friends, through our community. And we just drop in and go
Mhm.
into deep detail about all of those. And then we have really good sex and really good pleasure and all. So it is literally in the same scenario. We are processing both of these. We are balancing both of these in one session. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's really important.
It serves us in so many ways, and we do have like these little rituals or disciplines. We'll build a little altar. We'll draw a tarot card. We'll speak to our intentions. We'll take notes. I type them up later. We joke I'm the sacred scribe. And so those ceremonies, we both turn our phones off. It's these deeper dives to kind of even do that fine tuning. What other things have come up for you? What questions do you have for me? I remember asking Craig recently, it's like when you come over and I'm not quite ready for you, say I'm still in the middle of a project or I'm trying to get something done, like what does that feel like? Just these little kind of subtle things that aren't necessarily issues, but they're in the daily busyness of just doing and living, they kind of get brushed to the side. And that's another time where we really surface all of that. And then we feel just so kind of purified afterwards is the word I would use of just like, oh, okay, I don't have to hold that stuff anymore. And I had my questions answered, and we got to really drop in this very heart-driven way and be with each other fully.
Oh, I'm really fed by both your answers to that. This idea that we bring both, that they need to go hand in hand, that you notice, Craig, some folks really have a deep grief practice and some deeper practice of pleasure and play, but that really the totality of both of those or all of those is needed, and that in your monthly, sounds like a sexuality kind of sacred space, that you effort to bring all of it, that you bring the undone, the unspoken. And I love it, makes perfect sense to me. You would feel cleansed, that we sort of do a tracking inside, if not so cognitively, energetically, of what's kind of the static or the what's clogging the space. And when those channels are clear, the sex must be so gratifying. And it's like amazing. And then you type it up and it's just like there's all these elements, there's all of this intentionality. I hear it so clearly, and I've been hearing it throughout this conversation, but I'm so delighted by the turn that we took, especially in the last 10 minutes of just being able to go deeper into your processes for cleansing. And then you're not afraid of the difficult, or you might be afraid of it, but that doesn't stop you. And how much that enriches your play. I time checked a couple moments ago, and I'm like, a whole hour actually has gone by. I feel like did I
Wow.
ask any questions at all? Like, it was just so easy to be with you. So we just have a minute or two more, and we've covered so much territory. And, we've also just barely scratched the surfaces. But I wonder if, just in closing, if there's anything that feels like, oh, but we didn't say this and I really wanted to. Or if you can just reflect on how it feels right now to have mapped out, for people who don't know you, and certainly for me who knows you a little bit, how it feels to have mapped out so much of your intimate territory. So anything that's unsaid, or just check in on how it feels now, an hour into this journey.
Let's see. One thing I feel that I'd like to share a little bit more that's been new for me is, by being in relationship with Craig and one of my other partners, I'm also in relationship with Wild Fern Grove, and how bolstering that has been, and new. So being in community, I spend about 20% of my time at the Grove. And to be in relationship then kind of on so many levels, and to be witnessed. So when we have had conflict, I'm used to that in other relationships being behind closed doors. And this, it's like everybody knows. And there's support there. Not in a someone trying to get someone to take a side way, but just in a like, oh, someone said to me last May when we had a conflict, everyone goes through it, Annie. And just those small kind of words, because I wanted to kind of shrink and I felt embarrassed that this was so public. And so I just am really enjoying being part of something that's a greater than both of us, too, and that is mission driven. And I really honor that that was Craig and Katie's vision as the two co-founders.
And I'll add, in reflection to that, I think community is probably the most powerful um, way we can help regulate ourselves, because we have other people to hold any energies that are beyond us. And like, I wish the world had more community around them, and I wish that people understood how powerful healthy community can be to help every facet of every relationship and every connection in their life.
Oh, what a
Mm.
powerful note to end on.
Mm.
I'm sitting with so much gratitude for you both. And
Mm.
I suppose on that last note, I want to say gratitude for all the people around you
Mm.
who are holding you and lifting you up, and certainly how you enrich them as well. That's clear. Thank you so much for being here and being so generous and loving each other so well.
It went by so fast.
Okay, James, I'm going to
Thank you, Jessica.
It was an honor.
Mhm.
Okay, stopping right here.